Well, good evening, everybody. I want to thank you all for attending. This is a curriculum committee meeting of the board, and it is the first one with our newly identified curriculum committee members. We did not put on the agenda to identify a chair, and so we will do that next meeting. Tani, would you be willing to chair the meeting today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You should go ahead then, please.
I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. And I'd like everyone to go around and state here. And punishment, I'm school board member and committee member.
I'm Melanie Ehrgart. I'm also a school board member and I'm on the committee as well. My name is Kate McCall. I was a member of the Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee.
And I'm Jody Deanan, and I'm a member of the Human Growth and Advisory Committee as well.
Erin Cost, I'm the program administrator for the curriculum department.
Dr. Jill Reese, Director of KA of Education.
Jenny Thompson, I'm on the Human Growth and Development Committee.
Tom Hoiser, I'm on the Human Growth Development Committee and I teach the curriculum.
Great.
And
what's your last name?
Hoiser. Hogeser.
I think I've seen your name. Nice to meet you.
Jen?
In the back, Jen Wimmer, Superintendent. May need some electronics.
And I'm Laura Jackson, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning.
Okay, we have 3 items today for discussion, no action items. The first one being the report of the Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee.
So if the curriculum committee recalls, the Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee is a committee that serves to make recommendations to the school district on the Human Growth and Development Committee. The committee is board appointed, and the Human Growth and Development Advisory Committee met to review the Human Growth and Development curriculum and provide feedback or recommendations to the district. The committee itself had a specific goal, and that is to provide feedback on the district health curriculum relative to these 3 specific areas of focus: the human growth and development standards as identified in the health curriculum, and those grade level outcomes, the instruction resources that are used, and the compliance with the statutory requirements. So we had a committee formed of volunteers that came forward and committed to serving on the committee. That was representative of parents in the district, staff members, community members, and members of the clergy within the West End School District. Additionally, several of the parents serving on the committee were also healthcare professionals. And parents or community members were also healthcare professionals. So the committee makeup itself met the requirements that are laid out in state statute for the committee membership. There was also a component in there that said no group, except for parents, could be more than 25% of the committee, and we also met those requirements. So we also had one of our guidance counselors was able to join us throughout the process of the review to provide additional information to the committee about the links between the Human Growth and Development curriculum and what's also taught during the counselor connection and things like that. So the committee as a whole met 3 times. Now, I want to acknowledge some of the members who originally committed had life change or family change or work change or whatever it was, and were not able to follow through with participating in the committee meetings. So not everybody that was on the original list was able to follow through with the process. But the committee as a whole met on 3 different nights to go over and the curriculum, talk about the alignment to standards, and review the statute and requirements that were asked of us as a district, and also to develop the recommendations that you will hear tonight. On the fourth night, we added a night for the team subgroup of the whole committee came together to really develop this PowerPoint and go through and make sure that all of the recommendations were represented. So it wasn't a full committee on the fourth night, it was just a subgroup that was able to come together and develop this presentation. So their recommendations will follow in just a few moments. There are first some overall recommendations that really apply to all grade levels where we teach human growth and development. Then there are some specific recommendations for grades 4 and 5. The recommendations that the committee have really apply to both of those grade levels, so they are clustered together. Then there are recommendations for grades 8 through 12. The reason it says grades 8 through 12 is because our health required, kids are required, our students in West Bend are required to take a half credit of health in order to graduate high school. That half credit of health can be taken between 8th and 12th grade at any time. And so we offer the health class for high school credit at Badger Middle School and at the high school. And so that is why it says recommendations for grades 8 through 12, because currently we have 1/2 credit of health. And the human growth and development unit is a unit within that 8 through 12 class. That's what this group was reviewing, just that unit. In grades 4 and 5, it's 3 days of lessons, and again, that it's like a unit, but it's only 3 days long. The committee also has additional recommendations. Now, it's not specific to the curriculum, rather these recommendations are about items that support the curriculum or support parents in understanding the curriculum. So our committee members are going to present the information. I feel like you could ask questions along the way, but you can guarantee that our last slide says questions. So, Kate, I think you're first.
Yep, I'm first. So we had some overall recommendations, like you said, that aren't specific to just the grade level. The first was that we would like to be able to revise the medical information presented now and more frequently, like on a scheduled type basis. The statistics on a lot of the slides are out of date. And additionally, county-wide information from the health department could be added in to make it a little more specific and personal and really, talk to what we're seeing here and the environment our kids are in. So that would be very relevant. We would also like data on most common forms of birth control to be reviewed also now and more frequently going forward, just to make sure we're giving the best, most accurate, up-to-date information. We would like to establish a process to update the statistics every 3 years. We would also like to revise the language and the curriculum to be more biology-based and not family structure-based. So we noticed a couple places where it said the egg came from the mother and the sperm came from the father. We would like it to be the egg from the female and the sperm from the male. We would like all of the language to be inclusive, in the same kind of thread there. Not all children reside with their biological family. And a lot of places say parent, guardian, sometimes it's not always inclusive, that we're calling out both of those. So just a general look over to make sure that's present everywhere.
What would you recommend using?
It's just like a combination of parent, guardian, instead of just parent, or just guardian, or trusted adult.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Yeah, and all of those things, we don't want to just call out parents, we want to call out guardians, trusted adults, teachers. Really just a gamut of everybody to make sure we're being as inclusive as possible.
Okay. And everyone was okay with that?
Yes, that was a
I
consensus.
touch on it in mine as well.
Got it, okay.
We would like to provide some more clearly scripted information on making of health decisions, just so that everyone's on the same page and that can help support parents at home too, to say like, this is what we talked about, this is what your kids are gonna be coming home with. We would like to revise some of the outdated images and language and references in the slides and videos. Some of the things reference like music videos, and I don't even know if we make music videos. I haven't seen one in a long time.
Vivo.
I don't know. Just, to call out that there are
But you're right, I'm not saying.
media,
Yeah.
that might be a little more relevant, because I remember being a teenager and it was like, oh my God, they're talking about papers.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, and then you kind of just tune out of the rest because that's out of date and it doesn't apply to them.
That's from ancient times.
Okay. We would like to include in the curriculum where they can get menstrual products at school. And also we talked a little bit about making those locations more widespread in the schools, which, so they don't have to maybe go from one end of the school to the other to see the nurse. Maybe there's some way we can meet in between on that. In classrooms or chat rooms. It's not always available, especially at the lower grades when you're starting out. You really don't want to run across the school to get something. And then kind of going along with the first point on the slide, providing a list of resources and information that are shared with the students regarding contraceptives and other topics to the parents and guardians. Just, again, so that everybody's on the same page and we know what we're talking about.
Okay, so I'm next. And it says during the comprehensive health curriculum review, we're gonna map out all curricular areas, the standard statutes are covered, include mapping with counselor connection. So for that one, we found as we were going through the materials, when we were given stuff, it seemed like we were kind of trying to piece it together because we were just getting like a little bit here, and yet we were trying to answer questions for things we didn't have, and we realized that some of this stuff was being taught, but it was being taught maybe in Phi Ed class, it was being taught in counselor connection and whatever throughout the year, that they were getting more than just the 3 days. And so we decided, well then, here, how do you, when the statute says you're supposed to be able to give the complete curriculum to the parents, how are they getting it then if they don't know that it's in Phi Ed class or it's in these other things? So we decided that when it comes to that each website, the parents should be able to click on it and get the whole list of what topics are covered in what area, that it, whether it's in the 3-day session or it's covered in some other class. And then we also decided that with the fact that some of this stuff could be sensitive topics and we're trying to make sure that everything that's spoken in the classroom is more like medical, factual and medical, and we're trying to keep the value stuff more for home. But in order for the parents to know what it is that the kids are wanting to talk about, or maybe they're asking questions that a 5th grader that we feel like isn't ready for us to start, the teachers to start talking about, then we can save that for our home too. But how will the parents know that these questions are coming up? The teachers are gonna make a list of those types of questions that come up, so that and then send it home with the parents, whether it be, I don't know if it's gonna be like through the internet, a parent, just so that the parents then can look at the list and go, okay, this is a question I think is relevant to our child. We're gonna talk about it. And I think we said that we were gonna do it in such a way that it was kind of anonymous too. So you might not know that it was your child that asked the question, because that child might be something that kind of embarrasses them to actually go to their parents and ask them directly. But yet if it comes home in a list and the parents see it, then it prompts the parent maybe to have this conversation with the child, not knowing who in the class asked the questions. So, and then on the next slide, it says create procedure and timeline for review of material and updating of relevant facts and data. That I feel like you kind of just covered that. Yeah, feels like you covered that. And it says increase the frequency review. And is that the question I'm supposed to ask?
Well, and so it wasn't necessarily spelled out directly on Katie's
Okay.
slide, but it is spelled out directly here.
Oh, okay.
She just, as part of the process, knew what was coming.
Right, so that's what I was
Sorry,
worried at.
I took
I
this
forget. No, that's all right. I think I spoke enough in the last slide, so, okay, I'm just like, okay, so sometimes you get to be my age and you're like, okay, I might have dementia, but I feel like that was already covered, so good. All right.
Okay, so, we want to make sure the areas that reference trusted adult is, specify parent guardian as well as teachers, trusted relatives, caregivers, and healthcare providers. While the parent guardian is referred to as a trusted adult, the presentation materials and lesson content should consistently list parent or guardian first in reference to a trusted adult. So keep, obviously keep trusted adult. It's a lot of the same conversations that you guys were having during like SEL.
Yeah.
So keep the trusted adult, that's important because not everyone lives with biological parents. Or even if they do, they have trusted adults in their lives.
Well, your
and-
parents can be the trusted adults.
Yes, exactly, yeah. Yeah, the parent, the guardian, the teacher, caregiver, healthcare provider. And then when discussing medical decisions, note that parent, guardian, medical care provider have the best information for you on these topics. The committee felt references on making medical decisions should always include that of the parent, guardian, medical care provider as having the best information for students on making personal medical decisions.
Not Google.
Oh my gosh.
No.
I mean, you could have
No,
like
that should-
heartburn.
that should be in there. That should be in there.
Do not consult.
You're right on track.
Next slide is the additional courses should be added. There are options to be considered. District health curriculum team should review the options in course development. Identify key gaps in timing of the instructions between 5th and 8th and then after 8th, sometime before graduation. In this age range, the committee would recommend abstinence, birth control, and contraception should be discussed at an earlier age than it is currently introduced, if we have these additional classes. So the committee felt that it was important information was not taught frequently enough. The committee recognizes that we did not need to determine where the course was added, but would like to place emphasis on the gaps that occur with the current format. It is possible that a student could complete human growth and development in grade 5 and possibly not take health again until 12th grade. Right, that's how we all realized it, we all looked at each other like,
My reaction.
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So it's not likely, so approximately 75% of students actually take health in 8th. But then that's also meaning that they're not getting any health after 14 years old. So the gaps were concerning to us. And we felt that the birth control contraception should be taught alongside when abstinence is taught in these grades. So obviously you guys are the experts, we were playing around with it as a committee, and I think we were talking about, like a 4th, a 6th, maybe a 7th or 8th, and then obviously in high school, but something that's more, because we also were given in our packet or in our binders, information about the county and what we're seeing as trends on age groups of people having sex or, and I feel like if you're going from 5th to 12th, you absolutely are missing something.
What about, okay, so you mentioned 4th grade, did you intend to say that?
Yeah, like, so keep 4th, right, because we do 4th now, right?
Yes.
So 4th,
Okay.
and then like one in every school, basically, right?
But in 4th and 5th grade, we're not talking about sex at all.
Right, that's what,
Right.
I kinda,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, so like the 5th is when you would start, 4th and 5th, I probably would still keep, right, did we say that we would?
I don't know, we went back and forth so many times.
So
Yeah.
Because they're like
It
about
would be
knowing
the-
your body and
I was gonna say,
changes.
Yes,
is fourth
right.
and 5th grade really about like body identification?
Yes,
4th grade
right.
is like body identification, getting to know yourself and
And
things like that.
Puberty changes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then, like this, like talking about birth control and all, and those things, that would probably be
New in
the
between
new
class.
in between stuff.
okay.
Because that's what's, there's kids missing that, and there's teenage pregnancy,
Yeah.
there's,
I just wanna be sensitive to what's happening in the lower schools versus the middle schools.
Yeah.
I think everyone agreed 4th, 5th was pretty good. Like what is being taught, everyone was pretty
Sure.
happy with that.
Cause if it's a class in the school, they're gonna be talking about it, and other younger kids are gonna hear it.
Yeah.
So, but, yeah, body awareness,
You know,
that's pretty benign.
the only thing that I don't know how I think we kind of talked about it, and then we kind of maybe didn't, but I was just thinking that not all the schools are public schools, so if we stick, and so I don't know how that works, if we stick does that work okay for,
So like if someone transferred in, is that what you're saying?
At high school?
yeah,
Parochial school does an 8th grade health class already,
right,
but then they're required to take the high school class.
So-
So at the earlier levels, I believe they have their own programs as well. I think they have to, by state
Right.
statute.
okay,
So, but they are required to take like a lower level, an 8th grade class, that's just an informational health class, and then they have to take the high school level class.
so they are actually getting one extra class that the public school isn't getting.
They're
So
getting like
some
the
of our
combination of
parochial
ours.
schools, when a parochial school asks to have their curriculum reviewed to see if it qualifies for high school credit at the middle school level, we do that.
Mhm.
So some of our parochial schools teach algebra, some of our parochial schools teach health. And so some of them, their health class is approved to be that same thing that we have at Badger. That's for high school credit, but not all of the parochial schools in our community. And so we're really talking about what our West Bend students who attend West Bend schools have.
Right,
A student who transfers, and we always review transcripts to determine what they need.
Yeah, so that would just be something obviously, you know, for you guys to.
Well, for the people that get the sequence, and fit it in, it's really more fitting it in, I mean, I think it's great, but, you know, figuring out where to put it is a challenge.
Well, like you said, I think they're in the same school building, like, I like that the board in fifth grade, you know, it's like, we're just going to do that same thing. But then if you're adding more, like, maybe you have to go add it right in sixth grade, because then they're gonna be talking, you know, and the littler ones will overhear things. And so maybe more Badger, put it in somewhere.
that's a good point we hadn't thought about.
Yeah, just
Like a
the
7th grade and
Yeah.
then they can optionally take it 8th through 12th maybe.
And the other gap still was somewhere after that, like adding something in a later high school, like not having it be a class you can take 8 through 12, having something you could take 8 or 9 and then like 10 through 12 or something along those lines.
Breaking it up a little bit.
Yeah, to just kind of run out.
Yeah, like we used to do 8th grade, they had to take it, 10th grade, they had to take it. So like going back to that, I don't know what the way it was. But 8th grade, they got quarter credit, 10th grade, they got quarter credit. So like, we talked about doing something similar if we could, go back to that.
So, do we know why it used to be like that and is not any longer?
I believe, yeah, do you know, because I believe that
Um,
change occurred when we could offer it for
Yes.
high school credit while taking it at Badger.
When we got approval for some high school classes to drop down to the middle school level, they combined the health class into one big class.
Okay.
And that freed people up so they could take more AP classes. So we
Well,
might have a
that's
problem with
where,
that.
you know, yeah, fitting it in is the real challenge.
Yeah.
Just one component that I feel is appropriate to mention at this time, that the committee talked about it quite a bit, and part of the reason and why we're doing what we're doing. Our state is projecting that the new health standards will come out in the next year. And so there will be a period of public comment on them, and then the state will formalize those. We as a system will then need to review those. So as we're going through these recommendations, we need to be cognizant of the fact that new standards will be available and then considered for review.
Sure, yeah. Well, just like, we said, we wanna review at least every 3 years. So, good practice.
That health data that both Kate and Jen referred to, and it's local data,
Yeah.
was an important consideration. Good.
So my last slide, encourage speaking to a trusted adult about menstruation without emphasis on it being a female. And parent letters should note that the medical professionals do come and participate in lessons on how bodies change.
And that's specific. Wait, did they come to you? I'm forgetting.
Mhm.
We just thought it's such a cool thing, and half of us didn't know that they did that. It's been quite a while for my kids, so I didn't remember. And so it's just such a cool thing, we should just make, have parents know that that's happening.
And they can feel reassured that they're getting good medical and factual advice that's coming from a medical person.
Yeah.
Mine is more geared towards getting more information. So the first one says enhanced instruction about how to manage, risky situations and refusal skills. As times change, things change, and
Consent?
yeah, that consent, and when you go on to the next one, media-wise, I mean, what's factual information versus not factual information, what's on cell phones, stays on cell, stuff like, everything goes in media, so everything like that. Enhanced disease prevention, information, instruction, inclusive testicular, ovarian cancer, disease prevention through contraception, just basically more information, because those are the big cancers that we have to be aware of during this time period for males and females for this disease. So they're being in the know for a lot of stuff. So bringing in more medical people, talking about ways to check for different types of diseases and stuff like that, or how to protect yourself more if you engage in sexual activity, everything like that.
So that media-wise part, he was referencing that connection. The idea of media-wise skills and being aware of body positivity and things like that, that's also taught in the counselor connection. And so identifying those things, and it really allows, it's a concept that transfers across areas of education, but that's one of the examples of mapping that out so that people know that hit home.
And then the next slide, include instruction on how drugs and alcohol can negatively affect decision making. We talked about that already, but going more in depth with how it relates to relationships and consent again and stuff like that, and how drugs and alcohol alter your mind and things that can get you in trouble.
I like that don't feel like we don't, it's like, it shouldn't be, oh, we talked about that already, we don't have to talk about it again.
Yeah.
I like reinforcing things like that,
Right.
so I don't want to.
And a lot of the stuff that,
from.
I mean, we talk about relationships multiple times, like a lot of stuff does carry over to other units too, and we try to drill it home as much as possible in the class. Include information on negative influence of pornography and enhance instruction on counseling, medical, legal resources for sexual abuse and rape victims. Excuse me again. Just again, giving more information on where people can get help. Even bringing in possible police officers that have consequences of what could happen, the processes of sexual abuse or anything like that, or anything that could be in the know for some people.
Being called a sexual predator the rest of your life.
Yeah,
Yeah, we talked about that for a while. Like, it's like you're 18 and your girlfriend's 17, but all it takes is her parents to be mad at you or not like that you're dating. It doesn't matter, you didn't do anything.
Right.
So it's like, those are unique things from there.
So I have a question about some of the grade spans you asked to expand to. So some of the recommendations you're making for 8 through 12, would those then flow down if there was like a 7th grade course or something like that? Or is there a separate set of recommendations for those? I guess I'm just curious.
I don't think we spent a lot of time trying to flush out where in the curriculum it should be split into that new classes, because that really wasn't something in our power to make
Right.
happen.
I think
So
that's
we're
what
trying to
I
not
think.
get sidetracked too much.
And we focused on what we have versus what we could have once the new standards come out and once we could look at in the curriculums that we do have to offer. But just for 4, 5, 8 through 12, this is what we just have.
Okay.
And the one thing we did really call out for like a class between 5th and 8th, say,
Yeah.
was that we wanted more information on safe sex abstinence, because we were concerned that was not addressed soon enough in
Right.
the time when students are becoming sexually active. So I think that's only as far as we really called out why we want to have more instruction. Obviously, a lot of these things would be really good too.
Correct.
So I guess that kind of is something that would have to be more decided down the line.
Yeah, I think it was the study that we were given, I think it said that age 13 was the youngest for sexually transmitted diseases, so I'm guessing that also means having sex. Yeah, put the two and two together. So, and if they're not doing something from 5th grade until maybe 8th,
Right.
or 5th grade to senior year. I
And
mean,
really-
prevention only works if you use,
Yeah,
you know.
and
You
fifth
know
grade
how
doesn't
to
really
do it, yeah.
count because we're not talking about it in fifth grade. We're not even talking about the word, we didn't use the word abstinence in fifth grade.
We can use the word sex in 5th grade. We just use
Yeah.
intercourse.
Yeah.
AIDS isn't even referred to, they don't even talk about getting AIDS in 5th
Right.
grade as sex is an option, it just says there are other ways talking about that.
Yes,
Right.
blood-borne pathogens.
Was there any, thank you guys, I have a question, but I'm afraid it might be premature. I don't want to interrupt your presentation. Okay, so, I really like everything you all pull out of this, and I really appreciate the feedback. It sounds like most of the talk about sex is talking about consensual sex. There are kids who have been sexually abused, and some kids are in the process of being groomed to be sexually abused. And so I wonder how, is it possible for us to include ways to explain that, hey, it's not okay for, some rando to be talking to you about sex,
Would that be maybe like, you could add into like the social media part? Oh, maybe.
The next slide.
Okay.
No, it's just talking, basically what we do is giving more in-depth information than what we currently give on the things you just mentioned.
Okay.
Like everything that you just mentioned, we want to go further in depth with because it is a real thing. I mean, it's huge and it has happened in this community in the past and it's going to continue to happen all over the place, but people need to be in the know. Yes. So yes, the first two things that you see up there, we want to go more and more in depth with.
There we go. Yeah,
So-
I wasn't supposed to say.
Oh, you're good. It was a good transition.
Right, you're on track.
Yep.
The last thing that we did, we actually added this year, the state law says that we have to talk about relinquishing a newborn, which is the safe haven law. So we did add that into the curriculum this year, we did teach it this year, but to be officially in there now that we're going to be talking about it.
And on all this mapping that we're doing too, it also is supposed to be to help like the different teachers, like who's a teacher that might come after Tommy, but whatever. If there's a map for it, it helps to ensure that maybe the same thing is being taught across the whole school district and stuff. Oh, okay. All right. So then, it says web recommendations, this slide summarizes additional areas the committee felt the district could provide clear access to information for parents on the human growth and development curriculum and so forth. And then there's gonna be letters that'll continue to go home. There's a link. All these things are gonna also be included on the website, I believe, that you can just go to one spot. We were saying that we're probably even gonna have like one health link that, and under that health link, you'll have your HGD and then there'll be other things underneath there too. So that there's just one, it makes it easy, so there's one spot to go and then you'll find whatever subject that you're looking for under that. So I don't know who's gonna be in charge of putting that here, that'll be a big job, but it'll be nice to have it.
I was gonna say.
Counselor looks at their website and start looking for information.
Kind of similar to this, but really just driving home that we really want to have updated data and local information in our lessons. The health department data that we reviewed provided local perspective on some of these issues. And we would like to be able to continue to opt in on the youth risk behavior survey, because that seems like a really good source of information, I mean, for us as a community, for us to teach the students, just to know what's going on. So whenever that comes around, we really strongly suggest that we opt into it and try to collect as much information as we can with that survey.
And then when she says opt in, she means like each family gets to this, normally it's
Well,
opt
the
out.
district has to opt in.
But your district has to opt in.
Participate, and the board approves that participation, but then.
But then the
family
parents have to
also-
actually opt in. Most of the time when we have surveys, it's an opt out, or is it always opt
they're
in?
Opt-in.
It's always opt in for other surveys too in the school?
If we're doing a survey from outside the district,
Okay,
then you have to opt in.
okay, yeah, so then then we can make sure that families that don't want their child taking the test. And you also said that in the past, that once the school board decides that we could opt in, or then we can customize the questions a little bit too. So if there's certain questions on there that you don't think we want on there, they could take some of those off.
And Tanya, you were on the board when the board reviewed the questions and approved the
Yes.
specific questions that we participated in. And then, that's how our IRBS survey was customized for West Bend. So it was a little different than all of Washington counties, but we did, everything on that.
What kind of questions are on there?
I wanna see, I have it with me, do you want to have it? Here.
So while she's sharing that, that is the last slide of the recommendations that the committee has. And so, our next part is, what questions do you have for the committee? Or for, and then we'll talk about next steps and where we want to go. And, Melanie, I can show you where you can go next too.
Oh, okay. I can pay attention.
This
and then
So what questions do you have for the committee about recommendations?
I'm really happy with this, and, I'm happy that we had good participation from the community, and I would like to direct your department to move along with, I would like it to go forward to the board for approval so that you can start to incorporate and plan.
And move forward with the recommendations. So I think what I would, we'll be watching for those new standards from the state, but I would pull our health educators together, over the summer and do some work with where we would incorporate these things in. So that we can, come back around, a proposal for how does this lay out best for our students? And then bring in, more people as we should review that.
So what's the timeline for the state? If they put out new standards, then how long until
So they've been
we
working
review
on that.
them? Okay,
And they, at a meeting I had before this committee started, so I'm gonna say that meeting with the state was March or very early April. And, they talked about how within the next year, that their standard, the new health standards will be finalized. The process for the state is, they say, these are ready, and they put them out for public comment.
yeah,
They used to go to all of the CISAs and hold an event. Now they've been doing that virtually since COVID happened. So I'm going to project that it'll be virtual again.
okay,
And they'll have it on their website, they'll have a Google form on their website for people to provide feedback. But they'll also have a town hall-like meeting, via Zoom or whatever. I would project them to still have that. Then they'll take that feedback and finalize it.
okay.
So it could be anywhere from, they said within the next year, and that was March. So it could be anywhere from January, it could be earlier, it could be March that they have that. And then we have to look at them and say, yes, we'll adopt it as a whole, or we're gonna recommend that we
Okay. Is there anyone on the committee that wants to keep an eye on the town hall aspect
They all
of
do.
feedback?
That would be my perspective, wouldn't it? That everybody would, they were very invested. Very.
I feel like we worked well together.
Yeah, I think the group is a really great group from all around, different perspectives and takes on things and expertise on things. And
And people spoke up.
yeah, I mean, everyone spoke.
So do you feel comfortable putting something together knowing that the standards could be slightly different? I like the idea of what we have is actually better than the standards. So I don't want the fear of the state standards being different to get in the way.
I think there are ideas of what our students have been demonstrating through their actions, through their behaviors, through their questions that we need in another health class. I mean, Tom, I think we've had a lot of conversation about that, about as a health class in general, what information are our kids lacking? And you look at, they are exposed to a lot, and knowing and understanding how to take care of their own health, it matters. And so I feel like we could get started on developing the rough outlines of what would be needed and what would serve our students well. And I feel like we can go back and ask some of our students, what have you, now that you experienced slavery, now that you're older in high school, what's missing for you? We have that opportunity. So we could do that for and get more information from our students directly. And I feel like having the health educators really take a look at that with their understanding, that we can bring that back to committee and bring that back to our public for review.
Does
We start with something.
Sure, right? And does the advisory committee like that some of this is in the counselor connection?
I thought it was nice to be talked about in other areas, so it's not crammed all into 3 days in 4th and 5th grade,
Yeah,
just in health.
I think it's gonna be probably easier to adapt to getting it in more places than to try to create a whole nother course that is gonna compete with all the other things students are trying to do. So,
As long as we have it mapped out and we, because then it's easier for committees to be able to review it and stuff. And I think it's, I think it's great not to just have it in 3 days,
right, okay.
And I think when we talk about redoing health, it would be all health, and it would go beyond just these grade levels. So like we do my plate in first grade, right? And so we should review all of those components as well, because this was specifically focused here on open development. But when we talk health, we'll be broader.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think everything sounds good. I feel cool with everything, so.
Thank you.
So I will communicate with the whole committee about coming to a board meeting, and with this group, feel comfortable doing the same presentation before.
Yep.
Thank you. If I could just say again, for the committee, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the community and staff that came out to participate in this, and how much respect I have for how they managed everything in the committee work, and I just really appreciate it, that it was ultimately a very positive experience for everybody.
I think I would like this to be the model going forward.
It was awesome. I mean, we had Tom and then, I'm sorry, the other, Alyssa, and then we had Jenny Orr, so she teaches sports, so we had her opinion.
Okay.
Counseling was there, so she could tell us everything that was going on. I mean, it was just the nurses,
Yeah.
I mean, there were things that you brought up too, it was, which is really good.
And there were a couple pastors that were
Yeah, we had,
there.
Yeah, because when all that happens at that time, then it just makes things more successful and, yeah, when it gets to.
yeah.
All the curriculum.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you all for coming in and doing this again. I'll send you information on the board meeting and we'll get it on the board calendar. And the next board meeting right now is scheduled for June 6th, which is a Monday, and the first Monday that students are off school, just so you know.
After graduation.
Yes. This was just because we have all of the.
Oh, for inboard docs, you mean?
And so our next agenda item is summer school, and you are all totally welcome to stay, but if you don't have to, you can.
Do you want me to take it out? You can take it with you.
Or do you, she,
She says on board
It's
docs.
on board docs, yeah.
So Erin, would you go ahead with our summer school update?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Please stay. More, the better.
If you want me to open the historical, hearing, you can let me know.
Okay, I'm not sure. So in February, I believe is when I made the first presentation to the board about some changes to the summer school program to just really enhance the program and increase opportunities for our students. So to recap some of those, students in grades K through 6 were shown a video that was created by our teachers. So each of the teachers who have taught a class historically created about a 15 to 20 second clip, just sort of promoting and expressing the excitement for that class. And then we spliced those together to make a really fantastic opportunity for students to see those classes. At that time, we had administrators riding the buses in the afternoon, and they just had the buzz on the bus of these kids coming home with their sheets and like, do you know that there's summer school and we can take this class and it's about this?
My daughter was really excited about it, so the video worked.
Yeah, so that's the feedback I got. So the feedback all around was the video was really positive. So we have plans for continuing that next year.
Marketing works.
Yeah. Yeah, I had kids on the bus asking me for recommendations. I'm like, I haven't seen the video. They all look great.
And a testament to our teachers, they really did fantastic promos for the classes. And some teachers did promos for classes that they haven't taught in a while, but we are bringing back, and they did a great job. So one of the things that we did in creating the videos, we also increased opportunities for students to take 3 classes instead of 2. So historically, summer school has been 2 90-minute sessions. And what that meant for students who were taking a standards math and a standards reading is that they never got an opportunity for an enrichment class. So by shortening the classes to 75 minutes each, we've created an opportunity for all students to have exposure to an enrichment class. And we've had, most of our classes are full all the way around. Standards, enrichment, summer school has been to the max capacity this year, which is fantastic. Banking on that, we also are holding summer school at 3 elementary campuses this year. So Decorah has our 4K, kindergarten, and first grade students. Green Tree has our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade students, and Silverbrook has our 5 through 7 students. And I just want to say that again because I don't want families to be confused because that is a really big change from locations in previous years.
Is there a time, okay, so I used to have kids at different schools and, kids at some, what if you have a couple kids in K4, maybe another one in 5 through 7? Are the start times gonna be, okay?
Yes, so we have staggered start times, so Decorah starts.
That's what I meant.
Yes, staggered start times. Yep, Decorah starts at 8 o'clock, Green Tree starts at 8:10, and Silverbrook starts at 8:30. All of our buildings have adult supervisors outside at least 15 minutes prior to the start, so that parents, we can accommodate an early drop off at Decorah and then to get to Green Tree and to Silverbrook. So we did plan for that.
Okay, thank
As well.
you. I know a lot of parents will appreciate that.
Yes, and the bus routes are the same way, so all the buses will drop off at Decorah and then they sort of make their way to the other buildings, but on that staggered schedule. So let me just reread my notes here. Another thing that we've offered is we're actually offering 2 sessions of summer school as well. So we're having our session in June 13th through July 7th, which is academics and enrichment opportunities. And then the first 2 weeks in August, we're offering sort of like a jumpstart, get back ready for school, with the cobwebs out, just standards math and standards reading for students who need to get ready for school again.
Is there also like a get acclimated to your new school?
Yep.
Okay.
So jumpstart programs are happening at at each of the buildings as well. So all of the elementaries have a jumpstart to kindergarten program. Silverbrook has a jumpstart to 5th grade. Badger has a jumpstart to 7th grade. I don't believe the high school is having one this year. We talked back and forth about that.
They have an August 31st date for freshmen.
That's right. And that's why we landed on that. So due to the popularity, registration for pre-K or 4K through 7 closed about 2 weeks ago. Registration for session 2 is still available as there are spots available. The kindergarten 1st grade is nearly full for that session 2 already as well. We added an additional teacher for the Get Ready for Kindergarten class, which means we're running 5 sessions for the 4K students. Historically, we've only run 4 sessions. So we're seeing that increase in all of our grade levels. The historical data is there, but it's not, I included it if you want to look at it. It's hard to make the apples to apples comparison because we're going from 2 classes to 3 classes. And at this point, when I'm looking at my data going, well, I have students who are enrolled in session 1 and they're enrolled in session 2. And I haven't done the crosswalk yet to figure out who those are, so I don't have accurate numbers of total students overall, but I have accurate numbers of courses that they've selected. So if we look at our grades 5 through 7 in session 1 alone, we have 520 courses that students have elected to participate in. And then in our 4K through 4th grade program, we have 1,700 plus courses that our students have gotten themselves enrolled in. And then, like I said, session 2 is not closed yet for registration, so these numbers are different even from when I submitted this last week. But we have quite an interest in summer school this year, which is fantastic.
Yeah, we had a couple lean summers after being so popular, and COVID really hit it hard, so I'm glad we're.
And that's the way I look at it, is I look at it, we're in a dual summer of still recovering, but also intentional growth. So we're doing those 2 things simultaneously.
Right before COVID, we were in the process of trying to expand summer school. It was so popular, so we could accommodate more kids and more enrichment. And so I'm glad you're thinking ahead to that, because it is a really good opportunity for the district.
And as you alluded to, their final numbers, because registration is still ongoing. So we have all of our high school students still have opportunities to enroll in courses, because we have some students who we know and anticipate may need a credit recovery course. We don't know those until the end of next week, potentially. And then again, the Jumpstart programs, we will continue to advertise those throughout the summer. Those don't happen until August, so families still have time to get their children enrolled in those. Band and orchestra camp, we're pushing hard to get families to finalize that so we can figure out staffing. And then we just offer several others at the high school. There's a weight training course and a marching band camp, some choir opportunities. So again, because those have later start dates, we have some time to finalize those numbers yet.
Yeah. Any other questions, any more questions for you?
No, I'm just happy to hear that things are looking more normal.
Yeah, I think it's great though, that we offer so many different classes for the summer. You know, with all the little ones I have, like people get so bored, you know, all summer long, it's good to have something to do and be learning at the same time. So.
And the flexibility for our 4K through 7 is nice too, because if you can take advantage of 2 weeks, come for 2 weeks, and then take advantage of those classes, it's a little more strict at the high school level, attendance wise, because they're credit bearing classes. But every family that calls, oh, I don't know if I should sign my child up. Have them come and enjoy with their friends for a week, 10 days.
Thank you, Erin. So our last agenda item is talking about when we're meeting next. We have, as we set up for this 2020 to 2022 school year, we had selected the first Tuesday of the month. The 7th is the first Tuesday of the month. Yes. And so those were originally set for 8 a.m. So we are scheduled to have a curriculum committee on June 7th, but beyond that, we do not have any more scheduled. We have two things in front of you. One is the school year calendar that the board approved, so you can see going into the year where students might be, where it might be spring break or things like that. You also have the curriculum committee and board meeting calendar. Board just approved the schedule for board meetings last night. So this, you can see June 7th is listed, and there's a little question mark after that, because I want to talk about the time and going forward with June 7th. And then every other month is listed to donate. So, what time of day works, what days, something to consider as you're looking at that is, Melanie, just for some reference, at the, I would say in March, we started adding some more, if I recall correctly. In March, we started adding some more dates in so we could finish things up, or we had, our committee meetings were over 2 hours.
It was a busy
And
time.
It was, and so it was a lot to cover, and when we had topics that were rich, we needed to still get to others. So we added in additional meetings. We can always do that.
Sure.
So we can always do that. We went to 8 a.m. probably a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And it's really based on your schedule, and we would make whatever work. And tonight we needed to be at night so all of our participants could participate. Something to consider is that first board meeting of the month is generally when things are presented to the board and then again discussed. The second board meeting of the month is when things go for approval. So that's always important to consider, and it's always important to consider. Because if curriculum committee is going to say, let's move this on to the board meeting, we want to be mindful of that, so because of that first meeting of the month of the board.
So what I think you're saying when you say that is, we want to have the curriculum meeting right before the first regular board meeting instead of right after, because otherwise it delays a whole month until the following.
Yes, I think that would be best.
Yeah.
Jill?
And that honestly was why we made some
Some
changes
changes,
this year,
yeah.
because some of the dates didn't quite line up. So then we knew we needed to discuss things before it came to board discussion, so we moved a few things around.
And I think that part of that, I think, was because if I recall correctly, we made the committee calendar before we had the board calendar.
Yep.
So helpful that we have it now. And then something I want you to be aware of, July 11th is the first regular board meeting. And one of the pieces that is consistent for the last at least 8 years, I threw that number out there, I didn't do the math, just so you know. Is
Longer than I've
the
been.
annual approval of standards. And it's not you're approving the standards, you're approving the annual approval of the parental notice. So every year we have on our website that, and it goes out to families, the annual notice of standards. And it's a list of the standards that are identified within the district that will be used in instruction. And we didn't approve any new standards this year, so when we update it, we're updating the year at this point. And so at this point, we haven't yet, so let me clarify that. If we're going to meet in July, I'd like it to be before the 11th, but we have some things to consider with the 4th of July. with the holiday in there. I guess it's just that you need to know that that notice will come through, and if we haven't met as a curriculum committee. And I'm not, June 7th, I'm okay with bumping that back a little. What do you think, Jill?
Bumping it back to,
Another week, June 7th,
yeah, I mean, I guess it's up to
committee.
the chair and,
Don't get the chair yet.
oh,
Because we did.
well, the chair.
Vice chair.
The interim chair?
Acting.
Oh, boy.
So we could do it
Next
the week.
week is really hard for me because it's obviously Memorial Day's in there, so the week's only 4 days instead of 5, and my.
Oh, I didn't mean upping it closer.
We could
Oh,
still do it, we could still
do
do
June
it.
7th, but
Yeah.
we're a week later.
Oh, okay, yeah, I would prefer it be June 7th or a week later. Next week is, yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest that either. just,
Okay, so when,
And I.
does June 7th work for you?
I'm pretty flexible.
I would-
If my, like, if it's during the day, my mom can probably come and watch the kids.
Well, maybe we should talk first about what time the
Yeah.
meetings should be and then figure out dates.
And I'm wondering about June 7th is our professional learning day in the district.
Okay,
So I'm just wondering if we could do that at night,
I don't mind the evening.
because we'll be with staff
sure, yeah.
at 8.
Should we do 6 PM again? Yeah, it's not, if it's only once a month, you know, that's
The only hesitation I have on that is it's after the school board meeting.
fine. Oh.
And
Right,
so-
that's what, yeah,
Right.
yeah. I
And so
thought we wanted it
If
to be
we do
sooner.
that, I think we're getting out of sync again.
Yeah,
I think, so for the June meeting, let me pull up the, what we have tentatively on the agenda for the June meeting.
yeah, June might be just the last meeting in the year, with July starting fresh with the new. Yeah, yeah.
Am I talking out of place?
No,
To have the meeting towards the end of the month, but then it would be towards July and then the first board meeting of a season or whatever.
Yeah.
Like pushing it back, pushing it forward. I don't know, a couple weeks more towards the 20-something.
starting the later in the month, so it's June, so that way we're ready for July.
We can do that, but just be aware then, like the people who presented tonight will be put off a month. Right? So,
Well,
we
they
don't-
would come to the June 6th board meeting. This
okay,
human growth
yeah.
development committee will come to the June 6th board meeting.
okay,
The,
so they still will.
Because today, May 24th, this is like having the meeting late in the month, so. We could just continue from here. Which later,
So Tanya, did you say the week of the 30th you're out?
next week, well, my 96-year-old grandmother and her funeral is on Thursday, I know. She was at home on the farm until the week before, I know, it's just, yeah, right, I know. So anyway, that funeral is on Thursday next week. So that's why next week is kind of hard for me.
we have some annual things on the calendar for June. And they're just annual things that we review each year. And one of the new topics is utility in the classroom.
Oh,
The only new topic. on the
Sure.
agenda.
okay. The agenda for the
Potential
regular
agenda
meeting
for the reg-
or for the
curriculum committee.
committee meeting? Okay,
The annual at-risk plan, the annual notice of parental standards, the annual parental notice of academic standards.
Okay. So if we have a meeting later in June, is there always a fourth? Like, okay, like this is the fourth Tuesday of the month. Is there always 4 Tuesdays? Yeah, there should be, right? Because 28 days is the shortest month and.
I will be out the fourth Tuesday in June this year because I have, a training.
Okay, okay. What about in general, other than next month?
If we're gonna do it after, can we do it the week of the 13th?
Between the two board meetings. Sure.
And you don't have to stay on Tuesdays.
Yeah, then we can do it anytime.
Like, just so you know, you don't have to stay on Tuesdays.
Okay, and even time as well. I mean, obviously, these are, staff here and they're staying later.
I'm flexible. If daytime works better for this, I'm okay with that. It's once a month.
Okay. Does 8 AM work?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, can we do,
So what can we do, because I could get to school.
8 o'clock's drop off, so then
Yeah,
we'll do like 8:30, then I could.
Sure. Yeah, could we go back to mornings and do 8:30?
So, would we be doing 8:30 on Tuesday, June 13th? Or, wait, that's
That's
on
Monday.
Tuesday, June 14th? Excuse me?
I have a West Bend Community Foundation Board meeting from 7:30 to 9:30. So, but that's only twice a year. So, that day I would have to meet like at 9:30. Is that right? Not too much in the middle of the morning? Okay. Yeah, let's, just for a one-off, let's say that the next, curriculum committee meeting will be June 14th at 9:30.
Okay. We'll, adjust the website to indicate that June 14th, 9:30 AM. I will look, we'll look for a space and reserve it, but let's assume it's going to be in here.
Okay.
And, then, do you want me to look for a consistent pattern and bring those dates forward?
Yeah, because if I don't get it blocked off, then we're gonna be doing this every month, trying to yeah.
If we did, so I know that the board meetings shift because of other things, but if we did the second, well, this must be the second, because of Labor Day. What do you want? What day of the week do you want it? And do you want me to go first, second, third? Keep in mind, we're trying to be ready for the first board meeting.
Yeah. I like third or fourth, except for there's a few months where I am gonna have trouble. I have quarterly meetings for a few boards and they happen, obviously every 3 months. And I don't know if it's better for me to, they're not consistent enough as far as which part of the month that I would rather pick something that works most of the time and then I can just let you know which months it needs to be a different week.
So we'll mock up a calendar.
Yeah.
The third, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What day would be?
I like Tuesdays.
Tuesday's fine.
Okay.
So we're
8:30.
going to adjust this to show the Tuesdays, and then we'll talk about it at the next curriculum committee meeting.
Okay.
And then another agenda item will be the chair.
Okay. Yeah.
Identify the chair.
So we're gonna,
Third Tuesday, 8:30 AM normally, but this month is the 14th, so starting in July.
third Tuesday, 8:30 a.m. Then that'll give me a chance to go home and make a list of
Retailing.
how often that works.
So then we'll formalize that this month. Yes. Okay.
Let me just make sure it at least works in July. It'd be really embarrassing if you come back next time.
Just kidding.
Okay, yes, it does. Not the second and not the fourth. Yes. Okay, so yeah, third Tuesday.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
Those are all of our agenda items.
Okay, let's call the meeting to close at 7:11.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, easier than I